Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this Regional Planning Governing Board to order for Thursday, August 14th. And if we can start with roll call, please.
Yes. All right. Clara Andriola, absent but on the way. Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
Brandy Anderson. Mike Clark, absent. Naomi Dewar.
Here.
Jean Herman, absent. Ed Lawson. Devin Reese.
Here.
Joe Rodriguez.
Here.
Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
And non-voting member Beth Smith.
Here.
We're all set.
Great, thank you. And next we'll move to salute to the flag. President Smith, can I have you do that, please?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to elections of officers. It's election of chair for the city of Sparks. So if anybody would like to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Diane Vanderwell for chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Opposed?
Ha ha, funny.
No, you have to do an opposed too.
Oh, of course you do. You made the motion and then you oppose, so of course. Next, we'll move along to election of the vice chair, and it's for the city of Reno. And if I can please get a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll move to nominate Vice Mayor Kathleen Taylor from the City of Reno.
Thank you. If I can-
Second.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move along to approval of the agenda.
If there are no changes, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. Next, we'll move along to approval of the minutes. If there are no changes, can I please get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Great, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please say aye. Aye. Terrific. Great, we'll move on to number 6, public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, we have two. First, we'll start with Kathy Fulkerson.
Great, thank you.
Did you get my message? Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Fulkerson. I'm a facilitator with Third Act Nevada. It's a national organization for older Americans who are concerned about climate issues and democracy issues. And I'm here to make general public comment about item 8E and the continuing research that Dr. Smith is doing and his staff with regard to data centers and their impacts on the Truckee Meadows region. In it, Dr. Smith talks about how we, the Truckee Meadows Regional Governing Board, the Planning Agency, the City of Sparks, the City of Reno, and Washoe County can employ strategies to guide the development of data centers in such a way that balances benefits with resource stewardship and positions the region for sustainable economic uses. And so I encourage you to continue to research all of those items, and including developing requirements or recommending requirements that local jurisdictions can take with regard to water use, to air quality, to noise abatement, and to fire prevention. And so I think that if we don't have requirements around these, that data centers, especially because they use lots of energy and they can use lots of water, if they're not required to use low water use, then they may not want to use more energy for that usage. And so I really urge you to develop or make recommendations for requirements that local jurisdictions can take on with regard to data centers and their use, I'm very excited about the public comment opportunity and the public conversation on August 20th. And I'm also looking forward to the October 1st joint meeting with the City of Reno and the City Planning Commission to talk about potentially developing a data center ordinance. And so all this helps inform everything so that we can have a viable living community that uses and develops data centers responsibly so that we receive economic benefits as well as mitigate their impacts. So thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Fokerson. Are there any other?
Yes, we have one more, Sandy Roth. And if anyone else would like to leave a comment, we have comment cards up here.
Hello, my name is Sandy Roth. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, and especially Dr. Smith and his staff, for your efforts to understand and plan for the impact of data centers on our region. I also want to encourage you to continue to do more, as this is a complex and rapidly evolving issue. NV Energy publicly stated last year that energy consumption in northern Nevada will double in less than a decade just based on existing data center contracts alone. Those are existing data center contracts. They also said that additional data centers could cause the electric grid in northern Nevada to quickly quadruple. What impacts will this data center explosion have beyond enormous energy consumption? I think it would be beneficial for you to drill down even more on tax issues. How much tax revenue is coming into the jurisdictions from data centers? We know that tax abatements dramatically reduce the amount of taxes that data centers pay, but how much of the taxes that they do pay is even trickling into the city of Reno or the city of Sparks? Can the cities impose fees that raise revenue and cover some of the impacts of data centers while incentivizing the use of clean energy and water-efficient and energy-efficient technologies? Among other things, I also encourage you to research the unique fire dangers associated with data centers. The City of Phoenix recently adopted regulations related to fire dangers. A data center expert from the International Association of Firefighters provided information to the City Council. This expert is very concerned that most firefighters in the country are not adequately equipped to deal with data center fires. He spoke about the unique risks of fires starting at data centers because of their equipment and heat, as well as the challenges to timely suppression of the fires. He also talked about the higher risk to firefighters' health and safety because of the designs of data centers and the toxic fumes. In addition, he discussed the risk to groundwater, waterways, and surrounding residents because of the polluted water runoff resulting from the large amounts of water needed to fight these fires and the chemicals on site. These issues are relevant to any potential zoning or overlay districts for data centers, as well as to firefighting planning, safety, and resources. Also, to the extent you coordinate with the Regional Health Board and Air Quality District, it may make sense to research the impact of on-site diesel generators. They aren't just very noisy, which they are. They emit pollution that is a danger to human health. This is very, very relevant to zoning. Thanks again for the work you are doing. It is very much appreciated. I'm glad that you're not just sitting back while these data centers come in. They can have a benefit, but we want them to be responsible citizens and not adversely impact our environment and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Yes, one
Okay.
more, Robin Palmer.
Terrific, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll be brief. Robin Palmer is my name. I agree with both Sandy and Kathy in their comments. I want to thank Dr. Smith for hearing us, for arranging the community meeting next week in which all the community can comment about data centers, and for the governing board supporting Dr. Smith in this effort. Data centers are already in our community. More are coming. They're going to have an impact on our community. We, Kathy and Sandy and I and others, hope it's not a detrimental impact to our community. We like living here. So thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
No
Okay,
more.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If nobody wants to remove anything, I will take a motion.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye. Great. Next, we'll move on to 8, business of the day, public hearing. Regional Plan Amendment, Silver Lake to Moya Gas Capacity Improvement, RPA 25-002. Possible adoption of RPGB Resolution 2502 regarding an amendment to the 2024 regional plan to add a new regional utility site.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For this presentation, we have Regional Planner Chris Tolley. Thank you, Chris.
Good afternoon, Regional Planning Governing Board members. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. As mentioned, this item is a regional plan amendment for the Silver Lake to Moya Gas Capacity Improvements Project. And that case number is RPA 25-002. As noted, the proposal is an amendment to the regional plan, and we'll cover the details through this presentation. To do a little background for this item, the Regional Planning Commission recommended adoption of the proposed RPA, or Regional Plan Amendment, at their July 24th meeting. The Reno City Planning Commission approved the conditional use permit on May 8th, and then the Reno City Council sponsored the Regional Plan Amendment on June 4th, all of this year. And finally, Regional Planning Staff's recommendation to the RPC was that the proposal conforms with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. To continue with the overview, the proposed gas regulator station is considered a regional utility site, which must be reflected on Map 3 of the regional plan and is being considered through this item. The proposed gas regulator station and gas main are also considered a project of regional significance as they will operate above 100 pounds per square inch. This portion of the proposal being considered by TMRPA was found in conformance again by the Regional Planning Commission and doesn't require determination by the Regional Planning Governing Board. Continuing, the gas regulator station and also regional utility site are primarily located on the CRCH Golf Course, and that parcel number is 554-01001. The line starts at the proposed gas regulator station on the northern extent of the golf course and heads approximately 4,700 feet south towards and along Silver Lake Road, and is also part of the Tier 2 regional land designation. Policy RC10 identifies the 7 criteria that the Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning Governing Board must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment, and we will step through the analysis contained in the staff report here. Proposal to amend Map 3 of the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to add a regional utility site is not anticipated to influence or impact regional capacities and growth projections. This request includes no change in residential density and will not change projected housing capacities. The proposed gas regulator station and main will better serve current and future residents and will not modify the existing regional form. The proposed project will not require the provision of public facilities and services. And as mentioned previously, the new utility site will provide additional capacity to adequately serve the existing and future customers in North Valleys. And when analyzing the case, with the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan, staff did not find any conflicts with the proposal. With that, concludes my presentation. The motion is on the screen and also on page 25 of the packet. Team RPA staff, City of Reno staff, and the applicant to the City of Reno are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any requests to speak?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a motion or comments.
Madam Chair, I can make a motion.
Okay.
I move to adopt the RPGP Resolution 2502 regarding an amendment to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll have we have a presentation and consideration of an updated evaluation form for the Director of Regional Planning. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For this item, I'd like to turn it over to our legal counsel, Jessica Prunty, who prepared the updated evaluation form, which we can bring up on the screen if you'd like us to.
Yes, please. Thank you. Jessica Prunty for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair, Director Smith. In your packet, on page 39, is a very short memorandum from me. At our last meeting, you tasked me with revamping the director's evaluation. In preparation for this, I reached out to city council members, Washoe County commissioners, and Sparks City Council members to get a feel for what was being done for the manager evaluations at their local jurisdictions. I also spoke with the district health office per Councilman Reese's suggestion and reviewed how they are evaluating the district health officer, and I also looked at Tumwa's director evaluation. And in compiling and comparing those various methods, which are significantly different than the historical director evaluation here, I pieced together this evaluation form. And then I met with past Chair Andriola and current Chair Vanderwall and Director Smith, and we all took a look at it and received some really wonderful substantive input, and Chair Andriola took it upon herself to make some changes and some great suggestions on the rating scale. And so this is what is being proposed for adoption to you. Please note we'll correct the typographical error under performance categories to rate. But this is a very simplified evaluation, a rating scale of 5 to 0, and a comment section at the end. We hope that it will kind of streamline your time spent on the evaluation process and be more meaningful moving forward. We also have included a category performance that will not be rated this year, but it will be based upon the agency report card, which will be the next presentation, and that nexus to the director's performance for this board to rate. So I'm here to answer any questions, take any suggested changes. Otherwise, there is a proposed motion in the packet on my memo. I'm here to address any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Prunty. Are there any questions from the board? Yes, Ms. Dorr.
Ms. Prunty, I was just wondering, this is printed for us, but is this expected to be electronic? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, once we have approval over the form from this body, when I'll circulate the evaluation probably electronically through SurveyMonkey again, and then also give members the option to do a PDF fillable, whatever is your pleasure for each individual person.
Okay. That is good, because a lot of times on these forms, let's say you have a comment or something, or you get interrupted, it's often good to make sure that you have a system that you can save your work, or maybe go through, do your ratings, come back, do your comments, that kind of thing, and whatever you can do to achieve that would be helpful.
Absolutely. If anyone has a suggestion besides SurveyMonkey, that's what we've been using in the last couple of years as opposed to trying to fill out a paper form, but I'm open to any suggestions to facilitate your evaluation.
Well, I don't know how you get there, but that would be my recommendation, is that I don't believe on SurveyMonkey you can save it. And so one of the downsides there too is we don't have a copy of what we just submitted. And it would be good, maybe you can check into SurveyMonkey, maybe they have an add-on where you could print out the whole document or something like that.
I'll look into it, and again, I'll definitely circulate a PDF fillable version of it.
Okay, to where you could do that as an alternate, you mean?
Yeah, I'll do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do a link and the PDF fillable.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any requests to speak?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for further comments or a motion, please.
Well, I'm confused, Madam Chair. You said this particular is a public hearing? I think it's just a regular agenda item, right?
Madam Chair and Chairman Smith, for the record, and not a public hearing, but for all items here at Regional Planning, we give the public an opportunity to weigh in.
To weigh in, but
Yes.
we're not like adopting something or having a hearing per se.
Would just be the approval and, I guess, adoption of this new director evaluation for me.
All right, well, I would move to adopt the proposed evaluation form.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll move on to C, presentation and possible feedback regarding the creation of an agency report card to augment the director's evaluation regarding the approved TMRPA strategic work goals.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I'll be taking this item. Thank you very much. Excellent. We have the presentation there above us, and so I'll very shortly take you through this. The idea is that last meeting, we were able to bring forth a set of strategic work goals for the fiscal year, and this agency report card idea is designed to, at the end of the fiscal year, give both staff at TMRPA, the Regional Planning Commission, and the Regional Planning Governing Board an opportunity to rate how we did against those goals that we set. And then, as Legal Counsel Prunty mentioned, for this subsequent director evaluation, this can become a component, that sort of aggregated or averaged report card score can become a component of the director evaluation, so that in addition to evaluating the director's performance in communication and strategic leadership, other stuff, it's how well did you do the job, right? And we rate that using this strategic report card form. You may remember that the 4 goal areas we identified, and there's sub-goals within each, were our regulatory duties. So this meeting is an example of that. Also our Regional Planning Commission meetings and all the things we have to do per state law. Plus we play a role as regional coordinators, and 2 big projects that we've been working on are the data center and energy sector stuff, as well as the schools piece we've been talking about for a while. So, the regional coordination section is obviously a very important part of our work. Over the years, we've also built up a fairly robust data and analytics program and data warehouse of GIS data. We really like to get in there and get our hands dirty with the data. So that's another area where we're actively making progress. And then finally, we have administration of the agency, things like the budget, payroll, file management, and the like. And so that's kind of how we approached it for this version. I think as we go forward in time, that strategic goal setting can evolve and become, maybe better than it is right now, but at the very least, we've got a first pass at it, and now we're creating this report card that will help us gauge our success. Similar to the director evaluation, we've adopted sort of a modified Likert scale, if you will, where there's really kind of four ratings. There's exceeds expectations in a given goal area, meets expectations, needs improvement, or unacceptable. So this is kind of the setup, and it matches what we've done for the evaluation. I think it's a very reasonable approach to trying to rate how well we've done against these goals. And of course, there's always the opportunity to comment specifically about any goal and just provide a narrative and along with. And I think the idea would be, again, that this body, the Regional Planning Commission, and staff all fill this out. And then we put it all together after that and take a look at that composite score to see generally how we think we're doing. Avoid those unacceptables. Okay, so with that, I'm happy we could pull up it's a very simple form. We could pull it up if you like. I'm happy to answer any questions. We have some time with this one. We don't have to get this done until really approaching the end of this fiscal year. So if you want to take some time with it, we don't have to approve it today. We can, or we could add modifications, or you could have a motion to, sort of bring this back with any sort of updates you might experience. But if you're happy with it, we certainly could move forward today, open to any of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. Any comments from any of the commissioners? Yes.
Thank you. Just in keeping in line with the evaluation, I wonder if there's an opportunity to include an additional rating for the skill that would be not observed. And so I would just like to ask for that consideration. Thank you.
Of course. Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any requests to speak?
None.
Okay, hearing none. I'll close it, bring it back to the commission for a motion with Commissioner Andriola's suggestions.
I'll move to approve with the additional change of unable to score.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote. Aye. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to D, update regarding the Truckee Meadows Trails Program and the nexus with TMRPA and the regional plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, you'll be hearing from me, Jeremy Smith. So with the Truckee Meadows Trails and TMRPA program, a little background first. Back as early as 2017, I remember meeting over at EDON with then President Mike Kazmierski and a man named Mark Kimbrough, who worked for the Eastern Sierra Trails Coalition. Kim Robinson, the previous director, and myself went there to talk about this concept of creating a regional trails plan. And it really was, for the EDON president, an economic driver that having a world-class trail system would bring in, could be one of the attractors, right, for talent to our regions who's trying to diversify our economy. So at that time, we started work on the data set for trails. We did a massive data collection effort from many different entities to grab trails data. I remember it looking a lot like spaghetti because there would be many of the same lines repeated, slightly different alignments. And so we culled through that with the help of participants like the Great Basin Institute and others to get there. Over the course of 17 to 21, we worked with some public engagement with Mark Kimbrough, did that work, and finally in 2021, we were able to produce a Truckee Meadows Trails Planning Report that Mark basically put together. That springboarded us, so we had that. It was really great, and it's still available online. It's an encapsulation of all that work and what we know about trails in the region. And really, one of the biggest ideas and directives behind trying to do this is that we don't want to miss out on opportunities for regional trail connectivity, especially in the face of development requests. That's a great time. Developers often want to put trail networks into their developments because it's a great amenity, but we want to also ensure that we're thinking about those connections to other existing trail areas and also proposed or desired trail areas that might come in the future. So that was a big part of trying to get this to happen. To facilitate that work, there's a data maintenance side, and there's also a coordination side. And so collectively, the Truckee Meadows Trails Working Group, which I'll show you a list of in a sec here, is made up of a bunch of entities here locally, state level, and federal level, trails-oriented groups, come together to basically figure out a way to hire a regional trails coordinator. And there was recreation trails program funding, and I think City of Reno ARP funding that also helped to create a position at the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation for a regional trails coordinator. There was one hired. That guy lasted about 6 months. His name was Daniel, and then he ended up leaving. And then we hired Jay Howard, who was the most recent version, and he helped to work towards the thing that happened in 2024, which was the Truckee Meadows Regional Trails Action Plan. That built upon the Trail and Report and actually captured what was happening from local jurisdictions, trail building entities, what is being planned and built, and brought that into a document that talked about what actions are planned, where are these connections needing to be, and he actually helped facilitate conversations with private landowners and developers and local staff to try to put all this together. So a very useful position to keep the regional trails connectivity idea going. Here's that Truckee Meadows Trails Working Group. Hard to read, but we've got Muscle Powered, that's the biggest little trail stewards, Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance, Sierra Buttes Trail, Virginia Truckee Railroad, Sky Tavern, Tala Pyramid Trail, City of Reno, City of Sparks, Washoe County, Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, EDON, RTC, a bunch of folks, the U.S. Forest Service. All of these folks participate on what we call the Truckee Meadows Trails Working Group. And so as we were doing this work, years-long work, right, to bring this to bear, in the 2024 Regional Plan Update, we were able to adopt 2 new policies that benefited from this work. Number one was NR 11, Natural Resource Policy 11, Regional Trails, and it calls for local jurisdiction master plans and affected entity plans to recognize the Truckee Meadows Trails Program and associated plans and reports as one of the vehicles, one of the things that helps us to understand trails in the community. And I would point out also that it's very clear to me, and I've said this to everyone involved all along the way, this is not a top-down, thou shalt put a trail here sort of idea. This is collection of the trails planning that's happening by the appropriate entities like Washoe County Parks Planning staff or planning trails. We want to make sure we're accurately capturing what's happening and bringing it all together into a holistic, comprehensive view of that. There is the potential that that could influence what goes on at those local jurisdictions or those trail providers, but it's really not intended to be a top-down thou shalt. It's really a coordinating document. At any rate, we were able to get that policy, thank you very much for that vote on that, into the regional plan, which is exciting, so that now everyone's aware of this goal of linking our region together with high-quality maintained trails. Further, in our natural resource consideration areas, which is how we're meeting state law requirements to map natural resources in addition to our development constraints areas. So now got a DCA and NRCA. One of the things we evaluate for every subject site that comes through our office for regulatory review is the interaction with existing and proposed trails and trailheads. So that if we do find something, if it sparks, we actually do this at the initial review memo stage. So as soon as we find out that a project's coming in, we do this check, and if there is this interaction or potential for connectivity, we flag it and say, hey, local jurisdiction staff, please, we're getting comments from the regional trails coordinator, and we'd very much like you to listen to what the working group has to say and look for opportunities to connect here. It's not, again, very top-down thing, but it's a coordination piece to say, in light of this development being proposed, don't miss out on this great opportunity to make this connection. So those are the policies that we've implemented in the plan. Recently, the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation has dissolved for their set of reasons, and it's no longer in place, and so we've lost that regional trails coordinator position. So immediately, in talking with past Chair Andriola, I said we got to keep this trails data going because we've spent so much time and we don't want to lose the progress we've made. So we ended up hiring an intern who had previously worked for us as a PAC intern. His name's Jonah Headland, and he was working for Jay Howard at the Parks Foundation as an AmeriCorps, so already embedded in the trails program. So we already had this crossover. We hired him in. He was in the office today, and he's been helping us to maintain the trails data in collaboration with the local staff that plans these trails. So we're really working on making the data as tight and realistic, accurate as possible. But what we have lost is the coordinator position. And given our workload and the resources we have, it's not something that we feel we'll be able to do a very great job at without some assistance. And so what we're really trying to, wrong button. That was a weird brain thing. What we're really trying to do is act as a fiscal agent to contract an independent contractor that would work, via contract with us to fulfill that role. And we think that our first move would be to go to the working group members and see if we can collect on the order of $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 annually from each entity to be a pass-through to this pool of money for this contractor, and we can put out a request for qualifications to hire someone, whatever that official appropriate path is. But look for, getting contributions from that working group to build up just a part-time position, but somebody who's dedicated to this role. And then, of course, looking at grant opportunities to augment and keep that alive so that we actually have a person that, is focused on it and can help us achieve this great work. We're looking at $40,000 to $50,000 annually, which I think is a tenable goal. If you look at the number of entities on this list, if everyone gave $2,000, we'd be there, right? Pretty close. And if we get a grant, we could push it a little further. Also, in the meantime, we have propped up on our website a webpage related to trails where you can get these plans and reports. We're working on the data. As soon as we think the data is up to snuff, we are collaborating with Washoe County in their open data site, same place you go to get the official parcel data, the official roads data, official parks data. We're going to have this trails data, and they've agreed to serve it up. So we're going to do our part with our website and also have the data available there. So what I'm asking for today really is direction from this body to go forth and make that request and act as that fiscal agent to secure an independent contractor, help us with regional trails coordination. Happy to answer any questions, and there is a motion up there on screen.
Thank you, Director Smith. Are there any questions from the commission? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the working group, is this the complete list of entities that we've reached out to?
This is the list of entities that is published in the report. I believe it is the complete list, yes, but there may be other, I mean, it's not like an exclusive list that has to be just that. Folks can join.
Because I do have a question, because I mean, if we're looking at a region, or if we just focus on Washoe County, for instance, like Pyramid Lake, Indian Reservation, I don't see them on here. That's part of our region as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Reno Spark City and Colony, but I don't see Pyramid Lake Tribe.
Right,
And those are two different
yeah, of course.
governments as well. And Nevada State Parks too. So you got like Washoe State Park down there in Washoe Valley. That bridges right to our neighbors in Carson City and Story. So I mean, that might be, if we're looking at trails throughout the region, I would encourage us to look at talking to our neighbors. And even Washoe County School District, which borders some beautiful Nevada landscape. And they got WC1 funds, by the way. So I mean, I would like to at least see those three entities added to this, or at least have a conversation with them as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic idea, and we can add that in.
Thank you. Any further questions from anyone else? Yes?
Not a question, but a comment. I'm just really glad that, for your leadership on this, that you've taken, going back to 2017, that you've stepped up, and especially in light of the Parks Foundation being dissolved, it's good that all this work isn't falling by the wayside, and that you and your team, your intern who you already had on, are willing to take it on. I'd love to see it continue. I brought up at our council meeting just yesterday about the fact we had a visit with RSCVA, probably for over an hour yesterday, and we were talking about the importance of outdoor recreation in terms of our tourism and our economic development, and how very important it is. And the big focus from them was on sports and outdoor recreation. I mean, they're focused on indoor too. We talked about pickleball, for example, at the convention center, and we talked about potentially ice hockey at other venues, but they acknowledge, whether it's skiing or hiking or biking or running or whatever it is, that this is really how they're marketing themselves. And so we discussed yesterday the fact that up at Tahoe, they had the Tahoe Rim Trail, so there's a trail circumnavigating Tahoe, but here we have parts of trails, good segments, but we're missing some segments. And it's one of those things, I think, that the ultimate outcome is bigger, the whole is bigger than the parts. In other words, once you have an entire thing, it's much more saleable and marketable as a unit than just, well, we have a bunch of trails. Having a trail network and having it circumnavigate the entire Truckee Meadows, I think is a good goal. So I think it feeds right into the work you're doing, but also into the work that EDON, I mean, they initially gave you, I think, $75,000 to produce this first booklet and so on, if I recall.
They gave it to Mark Kimbrough and team, not to regional.
Okay, I thought it was. But anyway, they put their money where their mouth was in terms of understanding the role in economic development for EDON. And now we brought it to the attention of RCVA, and they said they have small grants that they're willing to talk about, sort of in the, I got the sense of the $5,000 to $15,000 range, but they didn't also say it couldn't be more. And they are sort of holding some monies back for these smaller projects. But I want to make sure, I think they're on your list, but I want to make sure that we had that we had that conversation just yesterday, that trails specifically came up, that they seemed open to it, and they understood the draw, and they also were willing to potentially financially contribute. So A, kudos. B, here's some more possible funding partners. And I just wanted to let you know I'm fully on board.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Public hearing too. This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to the commission for a motion or further comments.
Well, if you need a motion.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, I would make a motion. I want to make sure it's titled correctly. I know it's up on your screen, but here we go. I'll move to direct staff to continue data maintenance of the Regional Trails Network using GIS, and to continue soliciting funds from partner agencies and go for applicable grants to support an independent contractor to function as the regional trails coordinator for this ongoing effort.
Second.
Okay. So first is Commissioner Dorr, second is Commissioner Rodriguez. Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to E, update on TMRPA research about data centers. Director Smith.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. And I'm going to talk again and take us through this research on data centers. I like to preface this with, I don't consider myself a data center expert per se, but I sure am learning a lot. Yeah, and I'm getting there maybe. But there is a lot to it. It's very complicated, and there's just a lot of pieces. So, I think one of the foci, if you will, of our efforts is to try to be objective and accurate about what we learn. So that is really a concept. Okay, so with that caveat, then also, please, I'd like to point out the data centaur, which is a concept that we came up with at Regional Planning. All right, so what are data centers? I think we know generally, but they're the backbone of our digital economy. They are the thing powering our smartphones, e-commerce, our banking online, military, all of these different things that we're using, our tablets, our phones, our computers, even stuff that we don't see in the medical field or in, the Internet of Things out there in the world. It really requires the computing power. And now with AI, the demands for data centers are continuing to grow. So in this update, we're going to build on the information that we put out there in March after that first kind of research effort. But I want to make sure that we remember that this effort for this agency really is twofold in how we're approaching it. Number one, we as TMRPA have a state law mandate to look at projects of regional significance, land use related to energy generation and transmission. We want to make sure that we're doing that right. Further, though, as I've heard loud and clear, we are, and in our regional coordination and data analytics role, bringing together as much information comprehensively as we can around the topic and trying to make that information available and digestible by all parties, the public, folks on this board, folks on the council, stakeholders, commissioners, everyone. So those are how we're approaching those two tasks. I'm going to start quickly with the first one. There's the state law. It's the PRS, or Project of Regional Significance definition, and you can see that under subsection 6, anything that's an electric substation, a transmission line that carries 60 kV or more, that's the transmission level that NV Energy utilizes and beyond. Any facility that's generating 5 megawatts or greater, however that power is being generated. Natural gas storage and peak shaving facilities, and gas regulator stations and mains that operate over 100 pounds per square inch. We just saw that earlier in item 8A. So we're doing that role, and these are the policies in the regional plan currently that govern how we generally go about doing those reviews. We look at mapping regional utility corridors and sites. What are the widths and setbacks per the National Electric Safety Code? We have a prioritization for using existing corridors whenever possible, and that follows a hierarchy for the placement. Basically, we promote the use of these utility corridors for other kinds of utilities beyond energy, that therefore we can minimize our impacts on the landscape. There are specific provisions for airports. There is an option for this board to opine on costs, the PUCN, although it would just be an opinion. We've recently been through that, and really all of the actual rate concepts are governed by the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada, not this body. But we also have a regional renewable energy policy where we'd like to see Washoe County and our region in general help the state meet its goals of 50% renewables by 2030. I've shown you this before, but just bears repeating. Over the past 10 years, we have seen about 1,000 megawatts of renewable energy, either planned or approved, planned or built in Washoe County. Most of that's solar, about 960 megawatts of it. And that's on about 700 acres, give or take, of solar fields. And then I don't have the stat on transmission lines, but we anticipate, given the demand for energy that data centers are going to bring, that this is going to continue and probably accelerate. So what we're really keen to do is, since we have a regulatory role in reviewing these requests versus the regional plan, we want to get ahead of it, be proactive about how we approach those reviews going forward. Because in talking with several parties, I mean, we want to acknowledge that certain parts of Washoe County are sensitive. Maybe it's steep slopes, maybe it's conservation areas. We've got public and private land ownership out there. We have existing corridors and locations. And I think what we want to do is maximize our ability to meet energy demand, at the same time minimizing the negative impacts on our environment and be good stewards. So we want to get ahead spatially in Washoe County so we can do a better job of administering the reviews of these kinds of projects. And then there's the map. So now we're going to update our map to include the gas site that Chris took us through earlier. And after we do any of these reviews, we're updating this map. And so the degree to which we can get this information out there and utilize this map to kind of help guide our preference for where we want to see these things, that's really what we're trying to do. So that's how we're approaching trying to meet that statutory mandate. And again, I think we've been doing a good job of doing it so far, and there has been a lot of research done in the past by this agency. However, none of the folks that work at the agency now were part of that research, and so I think we just need to, as part of this, be sure we're grounding ourselves in a good understanding of what it means to do this work. Okay, so now on to the second tranche of stuff, really trying to get our arms around data centers. What are their impacts? What are some of the opportunities? And this is kind of a roadmap. This is how we laid it out in March with energy, water use, land use, and now we've tried to take a small stab at the economic side of things as well. We're continuing to grow our understanding of how that operates. Also, I just would like to put this table up there, which was really interesting. You know, a lot of this began in the December-January timeframe with 3 requests at the City of Reno for, I would say, these modestly sized data centers. And it sort of made everyone wake up and say, hey, this is coming. We're going to see more and more of this. Let's make sure that we, just like I was saying for our role, let's make sure that our community in general is ready to deal with this. And what are the possible impacts? What do we see coming down the pike? I put this up there because, and this came from City of Reno Development Services. What we can see is how much water is being requested by these entities, and also how much power they're saying they're going to use. And that can help us, I think, right-size our understanding of the requirements for data centers. It also speaks to employment and the size of the buildings. And again, these are fairly small compared to some of the larger implementations out in, say, Story County. Okay, so keep that table in mind. We're going to come back to it. Starting with energy, it is complicated. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. And I continue to learn. But it seems very clear that Nevada Energy's goal is to be prepared to serve the energy needs for all known requests and to some degree continuously work with their IRP process to understand what's coming down the pike and what they need to be ready for. And on their fact sheet, I mean, we pulled these 3 things. They are trying to ensure fair and impartial regulation. Oh, this is for the PUCN. So the PUCN's goal in helping to regulate Nevada Energy's activities is to make sure it's fair and impartial, want to make sure that we're providing for safe and reliable operation, and balance the interests of Nevada Energy as a private company with the community that pays the rates, right, for this energy. So that is a goal of and a function of the PUCN. And I would just add finally that Nevada Energy has to go through this process because under state law, they're obligated to serve energy to prospective customers. And that's why they do the every 3-year IRP process. So the IRP stands for Integrated Resource Plan. I've read through it a few times, and there's actually an ongoing amendment process. So it just recently adopted in 2024, but this is how rapidly this landscape is changing, that already the energy demands that were considered in the 2024 IRP are being outpaced by new proposals or new requests to try to locate data centers in the Northern Nevada region. So they're working on an amendment, but even in the existing IRP, when you look at the Sierra region, which is our region. Right now, the peak demand is somewhere on the order of 2 gigawatts, 2,000 megawatts. That's the peak demand that our region, and that's beyond just Reno-Sparks. But looking forward for data centers, primarily in Story County, they're looking to add an additional 5,900 megawatts of potential. So it's a huge orders of magnitude increase in energy demand. And so it's very appropriate that we are watching closely how we plan as a region and how Nevada Energy plans and the PUC plans to regulate how we're going to meet that demand. It's going to take time. I think that's clear. These are big investments. And thanks to Member Vanderwell, I was connected to the development community out there in Fernley at the Victory Logistics District and went and spoke to the guy leading that out there about what they're doing in terms of data centers. They're courting a large kind of hyperscale data center. And their concern is that Nevada Energy, it's going to take maybe too long to bring that energy to bear for them to get going. And so, in fact, they're seeking their own energy production via natural gas. They're purchasing it from a natural gas provider, having a pipeline come in. And theoretically, I mean, this is all, I don't think it's happened yet, but this is their plan, and they told me, an array of like a modular array of about 9-point-something megawatt natural gas generators that could get them up to about 100 megawatts so that they could achieve their phase one goals for their data center in advance of Nevada Energy being able to bring that power to bear. But then when Nevada Energy catches up and can bring the power, and next thing you know, they can shift, continue their phases of growth, and at the same time, they've built a very viable backup for the data center with that natural gas array. So I think that's just one example of how we're going to continue to see innovative solutions. At the last meeting we spoke about this, the concept of microreactors and nuclear came up. That's still, my understanding is, years away, but it's something that's growing. And so we may see a trend towards more decentralization of the power supply. And so we need to make sure, going back to our mandate, that we have the policies in place to also, map and understand those components in addition to what's being done with big transmission by Nevada Energy. There is some effort by NV Energy to share costs with these data center developers. There's this thing called Rule 9 in the PUCN rules governing this that allows Nevada Energy to enter into agreements with these data centers that need this big power, or any big energy user, to share the costs and for the developer to upfront the costs for the transmission of the energy, those facilities, so big towers and wires, and the substations that are required then at the site to transfer the voltage or whatever it needs to do there. And so they're actively pursuing that, and what happens is there's some level of cost sharing, whether it's 100%, I don't know, it depends on the individual agreement they would make with the entity. And then over time, that business that uses the energy would be paid back for that investment through the recouping of costs that Nevada Energy is getting with the rates, and then they would have a sharing agreement. So there is some ability for, to avoid these costs being borne by the existing rate base. However, power generation is also a huge part of this. Getting the power there and dealing with the power on site, that's handled under the Rule 9. But making the new energy, the new 6,000 megawatts of energy that we need, does not fall under Rule 9. And so right now, according to NV Energy's website info, Nevada Energy-owned facilities are usually capable of producing enough energy to take care of the entire load. That may not be the case going forward. There may be independent entities coming into Washoe County, building solar farms, trying to get that on the grid. Nevada Energy is also going to need to expand their ability to generate. And that's where the costs start to come in, I think, and creep in, where potentially it has the potential to affect everyone in terms of rates. Now, the PUCN governs how those rates are set through a public process. So that is a thing that's happening. But the more information we have to arm ourselves with to participate in that process, the better, to try to the degree possible, keep that low. Because I think the very last bullet here is that to the degree possible, these data centers should be paying for themselves, right? There's a societal benefit to data center growth. There's a societal benefit to AI. And we all are getting that. But that doesn't mean we need to sacrifice, our resources, our community, for all this massive societal benefit. We need to also safeguard the beautiful parts about our community too in so doing. And in a couple of areas, and this, I just picked two, but there's other examples, there does seem to be evidence that data center proliferation is increasing existing customer rates. And that in the mid-Atlantic grid, so that's states like Delaware, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, I believe, is a big collection of about 11 states, I believe. They claim that, or an advocacy group that's been studying it is saying that in 2024 alone, about 70% of the rate increases seem to be tied directly to the data center proliferation. So that's a link that we want to be keeping our eyes open for. Further, in Oregon, they've found similar relationships, and so the Oregon legislature passed a law asking lawmakers to pursue, or regulators to pursue a specific rate for data centers for energy use so that it's higher than others to offset that impact on rates. So to the degree that I've seen, it doesn't appear to have happened in our community yet, but the specter is looming, and I think we need to keep our eyes open and ensure that we do the best job we can to balance out keeping all of us existing customers, benefiting from data centers, paying our fair share, but not paying an overshare or not allowing those impacts to, supersede the benefits, I would say. But again, we do not regulate that. We are information gatherers in this, and we're trying to help provide the information. Okay, so that's the concept on rates, and we're going to continue to research that. Let's go on then from energy to water use. We're moving pretty quick on this, and I'm going to go ahead and make a correction to statements that we made previously in our March and April presentations regarding the amount of water that is used. Now, while it's possible that something like 12,000 acre-feet could be utilized by a data center for evaporative cooling, that is going to be only in a very water-rich environment and probably even exaggerated beyond what is necessary. And certainly the way we reported it was that was for 1 megawatt. I was working off research on the internet, and I just think it was plain wrong. I had a conversation with Truckee Meadows Water Authority. We have the table from previously. I can see there, we have an excerpt of the table. To achieve 30 plus 8 plus 7, so 45 megawatts of peak demand, these entities have asked for 12 acre-feet. 12 acre-feet. Very different. And I think in conversations with TUMWA staff, they think, well, maybe that's a little low, Jeremy. It might be double that. So let's say it's 24 acre-feet. 24 acre-feet of water is equivalent to a maximum of about 50 homes. So for these 3 data centers, even if you double the water demand they're asking for, we're still looking at energy, or water use rather, for about 50 homes. So it's maybe not as big of an energy draw or a water draw as possible. Now, this graphic that Shawnee made at the bottom is pretty cool. And what it speaks to is that as water use for cooling goes down, the need for energy goes up. So that's the trade-off, right? If you want to save money on energy costs, you can use a lot of water. And that might work in a very water-rich environment down in the southeast United States or somewhere back east. Obviously, we're not there. We're in an environment where water is an incredibly precious resource for us. And we want to make sure that we're conserving it for all of the uses going forward into the future. And so we don't want to just utilize it for evaporative cooling for data centers. I spoke with Google, who has a data center out in Story County, talked to their public affairs person. I will also point out that a lot of this stuff is it's business, right? So they're not always forthcoming with all the details. So there's that aspect. But they were kind enough to tell me that according to this person, the Google data center utilizes no water for cooling, only for domestic use. And I said, well, how many megawatts, do you have? And the answer was, well, I'm not going to tell you that, but we will not use water for cooling whether it's 5 or 500 megawatts. And so I thought, wow, that's really that's a change in my thinking about how this water is being utilized. But what does that mean? That means if we look at the graphic, power is going to go up, right? For air conditioning, power is going to go up there has to be cooling. Otherwise, the equipment that they've put in there is going to fail and they're going to lose money in the whole thing. So as water use diminishes, the power needs seem to increase. And that concept is being researched closely by TUMWA, since they're the water purveyor, and utilizing these concepts, which, I did a very gross estimate based on the table from the 3 data centers from the Reno approvals, Apadan, Webb, and Keystone, and I came out with about a half an acre foot per megawatt of peak demand. Now, again, that might be an acre foot or maybe even 2 acre feet. It could be a little bit higher than that. But point is, it's not massive, but that's a very gross attempt at how to do it. And in fact, there are these concepts of power use efficiency and water use efficiency, which are more established approaches to how data center experts and folks that are providing this service actually do this stuff. And if you're interested in learning more about that, there is a link in the staff report to the Western Resource Advocates paper, really great paper about data centers that describes it very well. So trying to establish that relationship and also correct our statement from the previous that it's highly unlikely that any data center that would locate in this region, or anywhere really, would utilize as much water as 12,000 acre feet for 1 megawatt. I think that was really describing water use for data centers in a region, not one data center. Further, I kept talking to TUMWA because we wanted to do slight corrections on some of the statements we made about water use. One is that we talked about a 100 acre foot threshold that would go to the TUMWA board. After further research, TUMWA let me know that in fact, that 100 acre foot threshold is in place as an internal policy that the general manager would weigh in on when any business would come to TUMWA for a request of 100 acre feet or more, but it applies only to the water rights being banked by TUMWA under Rule 7. So I think this is important to point out. That check is only in place if a business is asking to buy their rights from TUMWA. If they were to get it from an alternative source, like whether it's Great Basin Water or they have some water rights or it's the Fish Springs pipeline, then that 100 acre foot limitation would not be, or that threshold check, if you will, would not occur necessarily. And we would be up against, the only other trigger that I'm aware of would be our project of regional significance trigger of 625 acre feet. So that's a big difference. And that might be an area where we want to start to think about, how as a region we approach these kinds of requests. Finally, we talked about treated effluent for cooling. It's really neat, right? We're utilizing treated effluent from the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, sending it out to Story County's Tri-Center, turning it into a resource. This is something our region's been talking about for a long time. I can remember over 10 years ago, engineers from the city of Reno and Washoe County coming in for us to do a regional plan amendment to allow for a facility to get outside the TMSA so that this delivery can occur. It's really exciting to know that it's actually occurring. I've learned now that the agreement is for up to 4,000 acre feet of water, of treated effluent rather, to go out there. But currently only about 350 acre feet are actually being transmitted. And as a whole, the entire Story County Tri-Center, again, this is my understanding, is using on the order of about 750 acre feet in total. So 350 acre feet of this treated effluent, and then an additional chunk that must be potable water rights they've acquired from some other mechanism. But efforts are ongoing and underway to get us to 4,000 for the future. So that's a goal that we continue to work towards as a region. All right, so that was clearing up some things about water that we had reported previously. Then in terms of land use, we didn't find a lot of differences in terms of what we already said. I think what we know is that these data centers can locate in industrial areas, but they can also locate in commercial areas. They may be innocuous and not look like a data center, or they might be a giant facility that looks like something from the future. I mean, they can take all kinds of forms, and they can locate in areas that you might not expect. And it depends on the size of the data center and what they're trying to accomplish. What we think we know for sure is that very high square footages per employee, higher than anything else that we really see. Vehicle trips then are very low. Not a lot of people are coming and going from these things, so there could be opportunities to place a data center in an area that maybe is traffic heavy, and this would be a great use to put in there. Can generate some noise levels that are pretty high, maybe higher than other uses, and they definitely have lighting and security. And so what we've kind of, I'm going to go to a Trav side, but this is all stuff we said before that does seem to be holding true. When we look at this slide, you can see that data centers are by far the highest square footage per employee, that very last line. And in fact, I did the math on the square footages and the number of employees from those 3 data centers that I got, Openon, Webb, and Keystone. And it does seem to come out right around 5,000, maybe even a little higher, but in that on the order of 5,000. I think if we start considering hyperscale, massive data centers, that number could continue to go up. And so the very biggest data centers have huge land area for very low employment. But these moderately sized ones are somewhere on the order of 5,000 to 6,000 square feet per employee, which is still much higher than even warehousing. And then here's the trip generation. You can see at the very far bottom, 4th column over, 1.1, clearly the lowest number in the group there, and just kind of reflecting that with low employment comes low trips. There's not a lot of trucks in and out. There's no need to be bringing supplies. Once these things get set, they're operating, and that's what they're doing. Oh, well, there we go. And there it is with the line. We don't really seem to see anything at 1,000, so we're going to go with that 5,000. So just kind of the trade-offs. Can be in industrial commercial, low number of vehicle trips and a small fraction of truck trips, but brightly lit, 24/7 operation, could be noisy. It's a high land cost for a low employment yield. And what we think is pretty clear is that not a good fit for right up next to homes, right? Definitely industrial commercial makes sense, but compatibility with residential, not great. Okay, so that was the land use. Boy, that slide, that was tough to see, but that's why we printed them out for you today. I'm going to go ahead and look at my copy. But this is why we brought it. Thank you very much. So, bless you. Not an expert, again, on economics, tax abatements, or franchise fees, but I've been doing research, and I've spoken to folks at NV Energy and the Governor's Office of Economic Development and the local jurisdictions about these concepts. So first I want to start with the abatement concept. Governor's Office of Economic Development through the local Economic Development Authority can offer tax abatements for qualifying data centers. There's a specific data center abatement. There is a 10 and a 20-year option. There are certain criteria that must be met to enter into the abatement, which includes a dollar amount of investment in the community, a commitment to a level of wages for the jobs, the few jobs that are there, and a number of jobs as well. If you meet those criteria, you can enter into this agreement, whether it's 10 or 20 years, and what that allows for is a 75% reduction in personal property tax. So that would be for all of the taxes you pay for all the equipment that you utilize to perform your business, you get a 75% abatement on that for the period of time that you've agreed to, 10 or 20 years. Further, there's the potential to get a reduced tax rate for sales tax, down to 2%, again, if you qualify, and that one has to be voted on by GOED's board by 2/3 vote. But that also, if you're buying your computer equipment through the state of Nevada and you've got this break on sales tax, that would save these businesses quite a bit of money. Of course, the flip side is that it doesn't provide us an initial hit of revenue for these businesses to come in, right? So these abatements are an incentive, and in talking with folks, my understanding is that not even necessarily the best game in town. Other states offer more attractive incentives potentially, but in speaking with data center providers, it was clear that these incentives are part of the business calculus that has them wanting to locate here. And so it seems like a bit of a trade-off. There is a long-term potential benefit of providing the incentive to get businesses to locate, and if they stay here beyond the agreement period, then all of a sudden they start paying the full price of their taxes for all that personal property equipment, for any stuff they have to buy to replace. I don't know exactly what the turnover rate is in a data center, but I was told it was on the order of about 5 years servers need to be updated. And so within 10 years, if you're in year 12 and next thing you know, you're buying a bunch of servers, that's going to be at the standard tax rate. And further, that's going to be then taxed with the personal property tax at the standard rate as well. However, we have to consider the impacts. And if we are getting these data centers to locate and they're paying these very reduced rates, we want to make sure that, again, rates to existing customers are not being impacted, our environmental and natural resources are not being impacted unduly to let this thing move forward. So I think it's just sort of a eyes open, really try to understand what's going on here. And I'm working on a math example for a hypothetical data center that would employ these abatements, that would employ water use, that would employ the size, the whole thing that we bring to the community conversation next week and have available for everyone to check out. And working with NV Energy on that, they have a calculator for franchise fees, which is the next aspect of this, which is that per state law, local governments, for the privilege, granting the privilege of a business like NV Energy to operate inside their jurisdiction, can charge up to a 5% franchise fee. My understanding is that it's 5% in addition to the rates collected by the entity, NV Energy. And I believe that at this time, I think this is accurate, City of Reno and City of Sparks are operating at that 5% level. And I'm checking in to see where Washoe County's at and get that information. But it's really, if we imagine that this is really going to go up and up and up, right? And that's what seems to be the trajectory. And there is this low water use, high energy demand aspect. That could be a boon from a franchise fee perspective for our region in terms of bringing in revenues to our local governments, which I think we all know is always an important component, and especially right now. Continuing to try to learn more about that as we move forward. So how are we moving forward? Well, we want to engage the community. We want to get some public feedback on this. There's a lot of interested parties out there that want to have done a bunch of their own research. I think want that brought to bear. I think want to learn what's possible and what may or may not happen. So, August 20th, we're doing this community conversation at the Discovery Museum. We typically pick Wednesday nights because we get a discounted rate for the collaboratory room, which we always enjoy. I'm going to do a short presentation. I'm going to try and shore up as much facts and make it digestible as possible for Wednesday, similar to what we've heard today, but beyond, about a half hour. And then we're going to have 3 charrettes where I'm very interested to hear what the public thinks about our policy approach to their energy role that we play. Also, there's a map exercise I'm really excited about, showing where all of the existing transmission and solar generation are currently today. Where are the geothermal well fields? Where do we have natural gas plants? Everything. Put it on a map alongside slopes, land ownership, conservation areas, renewable energy areas in our natural resource plan, geothermal potential in our natural resource plan. Get a series of maps and have folks come over and we'll have an exercise to help, I think, understand preference, right? Preference for where folks think that we ought to be seeing or not seeing the proliferation of these facilities out there in northern Washoe is where it typically would happen. And then finally, I think this is the part that's forthcoming because there's a lot of aspects to it, and quite frankly, it's outside of our lane in terms of our regulatory standpoint, but very important in the overall conversation that we're understanding what are standards and strategies that other communities have adopted or that this community could adopt or say the City of Reno could adopt into their ordinance or City of Sparks or, to control exactly how data centers locate, what requirements are put upon them, whether that's cost sharing, independent analysis, clean transition tariff approaches, spatial overlays, all kinds of strategies that we're still working to get a list that we think is pretty comprehensive and holistic together, and we're doing that for Wednesday. And then also that will be a charrette where you can go and you can weigh in as the public and see, we can get some feedback on what people seem to prefer. But what I'm really excited about, those 3 games are going to be fun. But I'm really excited that I've got agreement from staff at Truckee Meadows Water Authority, staff from Nevada Energy, and staff from the Governor's Office of Economic Development are going to be there in the room during that hour period when folks are putting dots on things. And you can just go up and ask them questions. If you want to learn about abatements, ask the guy from Go Ahead. He's going to have a better answer than I do, and he'll be there. And you can establish that contact and folks can get that. So really excited about that. We're figuring out how maybe we can live stream it. And so we're going to try and do that so folks can watch from home, get the popcorn. It'll be pretty fun. But super excited. You guys?
It's going to be from 6 to 7:30.
Thank you, Sean.
Sorry for the typo.
Is there a typo?
No, just move on. 6 to 7:30.
I see. Yeah, it's going to be from 6 p.m. to 7:30 next Wednesday at the Collab Oratory. Thank you, Shawnee. Following that meeting, what we want to do is we want to make this information incredibly accessible to everybody. We're going to prop up a web page, our site on our website that's specifically about our data center research. You can access all of our past stuff, all of our past presentations. We're going to organize a bibliography by category of news articles, white papers, academic journal articles that we've encountered during our research, and make it all available for everyone. Click and check out, and that's something that we could maintain as a living document going forward. We think that we'll be able to report on the findings or any feedback from the community conversation. And finally, we kind of want to launch a survey that mimics those charrettes so that we can continue to garner feedback after the event and bolster our understanding of what people think about our policy approach, what people think about the mapping exercise, and what people think about the strategies and standards that could be employed to help guide citing these and what requirements we want to put on data centers as they come forward in our community. And so we're going to put that up, and then that will be a resource that could be useful as the City of Reno embarks on their October 1st joint meeting of the City Council and the Reno Planning Commission. I'm excited. I plan to be in attendance there, and if asked, I will be happily engaged, and I can present or talk about what we've done so far. I'm available and willing. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for taking the time to listen to that update.
Thank you, Director Smith. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Dorr.
Just a brief question. I've seen a few articles, and it speaks that Nevada is in the top 5 most desirable locations currently to site data centers. Is this accurate, or is there a way to measure that interest?
Great question. I've seen similar articles that say that, absolutely. And I think we do have some positives. We've got relatively low land costs. We have incredibly low latency. It's like about 3 milliseconds to go to Silicon Valley, I think is the number I read recently. And we have the incentives. Mm-hmm. So I think that's on the positive side. We've got land, proximity, and those tax incentives, and an overall tax kind of friendly state, economy anyway. Obviously, we have a few limitations, mainly regarding water, that we don't have a huge amount of water, so energy costs are going to be a big component of data centers locating here, and our energy grid needs some significant improvements, and so that's a trade-off there, I think, that...
It might be interesting to find out what the other top 5 are and why also. And, are any of these other states, and maybe this is something for the Legislative Council Bureau, are any other states or communities, cities, counties, putting in any kind of framework or regulatory structure or something to work with data centers? And if so, what kind of thing? I mean, we already have some things laid out. Mm-hmm. And my question is really, at some point, all of us are going to be in a decision-making, policy-making role in terms of what do we want to do in our communities, and that's one of the purposes of the October 1st, is to, several members of our Planning Commission are either very involved in businesses that relate to data centers or have worked in IT applications that require data centers, so they have some personal knowledge as well as some theoretical knowledge. But I mean, ultimately, where this exercise is all going is we're going to need some guidance, and it's always helpful to not replicate the wheel, see what others are doing. So do you think that will be part of your work ever to get to the next steps to help us?
Absolutely. Actively engaged in that work, and thanks to prior chair Andriola for hooking me up with a contact in Loudoun County, Virginia, the data center king, right? Where they've got the most data centers of all. They have actually recently proposed some very specific standards I was reading about last night, which we'll bring to bear. I honestly was not able to get what I felt was a comprehensive and ready to propose set of these standards and strategies. I didn't want to put it out there, but next week I'm bringing that forward.
Okay, so in 6 weeks when our joint meeting is, do you think you'll have some of those then, or?
Absolutely. I think I'll have a great list on Wednesday.
Okay,
next
of
week.
some things communities can either have done or could do.
That's exactly where we're going.
And we're in a good spot because this is really just, well, we have some data centers already in Washoe County and Story County, but it sounds like an explosive growth kind of situation. I'm just really pleased that we're getting ahead of it and gonna, make some reasonable approaches given what we know and what others have already done. So thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Lawson.
So just from me, my standpoint, Jeremy, is the noise is a first priority, obviously. That will tell you where they can be located, depending on what the noise level is. And not doing this power upgrade on the backs of the ratepayers.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal for me. I don't want to see that happen. They need to pay for themselves. And then just anecdotally, I've had 3 data centers in my office in the last month or so, and none of them are talking about using water. So what they'll use for water will be literally toilets and sinks. So they all realize it's going to be more expensive, but one of the advantages to using AC is those boards have an organic component to them, so the boards can actually get a fungus on them. So if they have to replace a board, it's more expensive than paying for the AC. So it's a business decision on that aspect. That's what I've been told. I don't know if that's true or not, but. And then what came in my office today was the future of AI. And that is going to be an explosion of data centers because AI is taking over the world, and the AI is faster than what they can build data centers to keep up with. So as we are in the top 5, as you say, it's important for us to get ahead of it, do the right thing, and make sure our citizens are not impacted at a high level for this. I mean, there's probably some impact to it, but from the trips per day, the amount of housing that's needed, the jobs is not real high, but the taxes are high. So there's a lot of positive, but there's some negative too. That I think that's our job as the governing board, is to find those negatives and mitigate those to the best of our abilities. But my main concern is with the PUC. So I don't know how we deal with the PUC. Do we have any kind of jurisdiction that we won't allow it, or they are over top of us? And I would imagine they are.
They're over top. They have their job in regulating energy, and we have our role in we per state law are not able to direct them.
I guess the question is, can they go, hey, here you go, Washoe County.
Yes, they can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Lawson.
I figured
Jessica
that.
Carney for the record.
But, I'm always looking for loopholes.
Well,
Outside of our statutory purview.
Okay.
The
That's
PUC
an important position, though, for our ratepayers.
regulates the field, so stack those meetings.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese?
Could I just add one point on that? I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
Madam
go
Chair,
right
James. I just want to let you know that I'm speaking to the PUC and a representative tomorrow, so actively engaged with them to learn more as well.
Commissioner Reese?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I prepared written remarks just because I thought it'd be easier and not have to wander around in the dark. But so I've said, as Reno Sparks and Washoe continue to evolve and attract investment in technology and infrastructure, we are likely to see greater interest in small and mid-sized boutique data centers. These facilities, I believe, are a vital component of an emerging economy, supporting everything from cloud computing to AI. But they also present important policy considerations, particularly around, as you've pointed out today, water usage, energy demand, noise emissions, and compatibility with surrounding neighborhoods. I think we can and must strike a thoughtful balance as electeds to ensure that we welcome economic opportunity while also safeguarding Reno's natural resources, Sparks's, and Washoe counties as well through infrastructure and quality of life related issues. I believe we've seen cities like Lafayette and Colorado adopt forward-looking policies, and I believe we can consider similar approaches to consider our region's unique circumstances. To be clear, and I'm going to identify some ideas that I want to share with our colleagues, I do not believe that we necessarily will be able to implement all of them, but I do believe a robust public conversation is warranted. Some of the reasonable limits or requirements that I have been able to identify through my own research are as follows. First is cooling technology restrictions, which the prohibition on evaporative cooling, which is extremely water intensive and require alternatives such as air-cooled or closed-loop systems. Second is water use management to limit or prohibit the use of potable water for cooling and prioritize recycled or non-potable water, and considering tiered water rates or caps during periods of droughts. Third is energy efficiency and renewables. We could require facilities to meet a power usage effectiveness target and use renewable energy either on-site or through verified clean power procurement. Zoning and site suitability, we could place limits near residential zones, schools, or environmentally sensitive areas to ensure infrastructure will be able to support the demand. 5 is noise and aesthetic controls, require noise mitigation measures and screening or architectural buffering to minimize disruption to nearby users. 6 is grid and climate impact mitigation. We could require utility impact studies, encourage on-site storage, and consider greenhouse reduction plans or offset requirements like cap and trade. 7 is look for community benefit contributions, explore community benefit agreements with public reporting requirements on the resource usage and environmental impact of these, especially considering that the state has already decided to enter into the area which we have generally not been permitted, which is the abatement and taxation related issues. 8 is heat recovery systems, which could encourage or require systems that enable or waste heat reuse for adjacent buildings or infrastructure. And 9 is backup power regulation. We can limit diesel generator reliance or require cleaner alternatives such as battery storage or renewable compatible systems. Importantly, among my recommendations, I still believe and have consistently maintained that this issue should be best addressed at a regional or state level to avoid a scenario where data center operators simply move across city or county lines to evade regulation. A patchwork approach could lead to a race to the bottom, which undermines local efforts to protect our shared resources. So thank you so much for allowing me to read that. I just thought it'd be easier than me trying to struggle through my ideas. What I think is that it's complicated. We should have robust conversations at every level. We should not pit one group against another, because I think there is a fair amount of that often happens in regional bodies and elected life, not so much because we want it, but it naturally pits one group against another. I think the folks that come and talk about this issue consistently, and we've had some great public commenters here today, care very deeply about the state and want so very much for us to get this right. And we can get it right. Whether that happens at this body or at our own home jurisdictions, I think remains to be seen. But I appreciate, Dr. Smith, you're taking a leadership role because you have just a consistent, thoughtful approach to your processes. You are not someone who gets high or low. In my experience of being on this body the last 7 years, you always chart a path that allows us to reasonably evaluate the things in front of us without making them partisan or political. And I don't think it needs to be that. We all want, I think, for good quality of life for our residents in each of the communities where we reside and where we have neighbors and friends. None of us wants for us to be a place where we find ourselves on the butt end of an industry that we don't always know a lot about even today. So I think each one of us can thoughtfully approach it and balance the competing needs. And again, as I've suggested, none of the ideas I've said are either exclusive, nor are they all required to be made to happen at any one given time, but just simply that we could have those robust conversations so that we can take the boogeyman out of it and more be about the facts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Reese. Commissioner Taylor?
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and try and follow that and fumble through my notes in the old-fashioned way. Thank you for the presentation. I just have some brief comments. I think for when I look at this, I think the region needs to say, do we want data centers first? Have we had that conversation? And in my opinion, the answer is yes, based on what we've seen. So we need to move forward from yes into what is the path forward for that. And what I would like to see from policymaking bodies is a set of consistent and predictable standards from the experts and all the stakeholders that we can follow moving forward in these, looking at the resources, looking at the energy and the water. I am not an expert in those things. There are other people that are much more efficient and experienced in that. I think it is also important to consider Story County and what they were doing, as my colleague said, because it's the same water and it's the same energy and it's the same roads. So we have to take into consideration that. And what I don't want is, death by 1,000 conditions when a data center comes in, so there is not predictability or consistency for these projects. And I think that can happen through robust discussions and research and good policy making. But thank you for doing the work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
I have one more,
Yes,
I guess.
Commissioner Dore.
Just briefly, when we're looking at the economic benefits, you did say, I just want to make sure I understood, that there is a series of up to 75% tax abatement, but it's only on certain things, right? And it's not on everything. I mean, I assume they're still paying property tax, or these was sales tax and something else?
That's correct. Chairman Smith, for the record, great question. My understanding is it's personal property.
Personal property.
Yeah, and that's the property.
Which is probably the biggest thing. I mean, they have all
this
expensive
stuff to
computers
do their business.
and servers and
Yes,
so on.
exactly.
So is there a way, whether for your office or other economic experts, that we could get a clearer picture? Like 75% sounds like a lot, but if it's 75% on not very much, maybe it's not a very big impact that we would be missing out on in terms of income, revenue? Or is that significant and the property taxes wouldn't actually make up for that, or at least not the first 10 or 20 years? Is there a way that you can get your arms around that story, I guess?
Yes, and that is something I'm trying to do with that hypothetical I was mentioning, where we'll build some hypothetical data center. We'll apply a server farm amount and then megawatts and water use and do the math.
So do almost like a hydro balance sheet, like
yes,
what's coming in, what would go out,
Exactly.
what would we gain, what would we lose, for how long?
Yep, and in conversations with NV Energy, they already have a version that, at the very least, they can calculate franchise fees.
Yeah, but
So,
I mean, that's a piece of it.
That's a
right?
piece of it. So yeah, I'm trying to get around it to the inputs and outputs for a hypothetical and bring that to bear.
That would be fantastic, because I think that's one of the biggest squishy areas that we might all have a different take on if we don't really understand it, because, I mean, speaking for me, I don't really know all of those right now. We only know a few of them that have been spoken about, but we're not looking at the big picture, or the full picture, let me put it that way.
Exactly. So this would be, kind of an imagined data center, and I think we would be looking at purchasing servers. So what would be the abatement, right? And how many jobs, and just trying to put all those inputs together exactly like you're saying, so that. And I'll probably go ahead and just go on record as saying we probably won't get it right the first time. But we're going to start building it, so we have something to work on.
Okay, I think that'll be super useful, because when we're talking about mitigation, we want to have accurate information about the pluses as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Or potential pluses.
Commissioner
I mean, I don't
Andreola.
want to predict what the answer is.
Commissioner Andrew.
Thanks. Thank you for all your hard work and this new adventure that you are going to undertake. And we should probably have some type of certification award when you're all done. But I do want to mention that I had attended a national conference where data centers, it was counties essentially throughout the United States, and Loudoun County, as the director mentioned, was really deemed as being really not only the first, but continues to be an attractive area for data centers. And the commissioner that I spoke with made a comment, and I just want to share it. Not all data centers are the same. Even when you put in your policies that may be considered standard, they are not all the same. And I think that that's a really important distinction, what that means exactly. I hope to learn more. But I do think as we're looking and going down this road that we're not necessarily measuring the term data center as only being the standalone measurement, but we understand those distinctions. So I just wanted to clarify that again. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, I'll open it up. Are there any public comments on this?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. So I'll close it and bring it back for either further discussion or a motion, please.
Well, what kind of motion do you need here?
Madam
Or we
Chair,
don't
could be-
have one. I apologize.
I don't have one ready, but it could be a move to accept the report would be great.
All right,
Why
I'll
don't we
make
do-
a motion to accept the report.
Terrific, thank you. Okay, so we have Commissioner Dorr for the first and Commissioner Reese for the second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to reports. Washoe County School District Board of Trustees member report, President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've got some show and tell. But before that photo comes up, first, just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who came out for the opening of the Debbie Smith CTE Academy. It was truly a special day, and not just because Senator Debbie Smith was a remarkable woman who made WC1 happen, but the site of that school, the former HUG, was really the genesis for WC1 and also the awakening of the Washoe County School District in understanding its responsibility in proper planning, working with the other government agencies, pedestrian safety, and all of that. And currently, the campus is a model for what can be done when we all understand that when we work together, we can do our best. And in this case, it's for kids. So before I go into more of some of the exciting news from the first day of school, also wanted to share on behalf of WCSD that we do look forward to presenting our facilities plan for conformance review at an upcoming Regional Planning Commission meeting, and of course committing our path forward with well-planned and responsible facilities management, because it makes us all better. We're also closely following the developments associated with various areas, including Talus Valley, Sierra Reflections, and we are well positioned to meet all the student demands that they may raise in those areas. We've had some increased activity with our facility modernization plan, and so in addition to projects actively underway already, such as the reconstruction of Stead Elementary School and Vaughn Middle School, our community can expect new things coming soon as it relates to Bernice Matthews Elementary, Echo Loader Elementary, and a new elementary school that is going to be built on the current Pine Middle School campus, along with Reed High School and more. And we will continue to work with the City of Reno, Sparks, the county, to make sure that we're bringing in the community, replacing these schools appropriately, like as we are doing with Stead, for example. We are taking a school off of a major thoroughfare, and we're embedding it within a community, which we know works best for all those residents that are there, and also best for the city as well, as I know traffic is always a hot topic. So now I want to bring some attention to back to school and to give some flowers to the city of Reno in particular. They recently installed more than 100 flashing school zone beacons around the city, for which we are incredibly grateful for. And one project in particular that I'd like to bring attention to, so you may recognize, of course, Reno City Council member Miguel Martinez. The city was very gracious in installing some turning poles around Libby Booth Elementary School, and then also commissioning local artist Nathaniel Benjamin, who is working on some art in partnership with the students and their imaginations to again bring attention to pedestrian safety as our kids and families are going to and from schools, and also being really aware as drivers make those turns, particularly around school areas. So we're incredibly grateful to the city of Reno, and I want to remind everyone to be really cautious. And so why are we doing this? Why is the city installing all these flashing beacons? Why are we putting together these traffic calming around corners near schools and art? And I will tell you why. And this is the part that is not so happy in my report. On the second day of school, we had a middle schooler at O'Brien Middle School hit in a marked crosswalk. That driver fled the scene, and we ask anyone that knows anything about it to please reach out to school police. Also, earlier today, we had a driver rear-end one of our buses. That also caused an emergency evacuation of that bus. That happened just earlier today. So I call on everyone with thanks to the City of Reno and all of our partners. Thank you for doing what you're doing to bring attention to how important it is that our children and family and all of our community neighbors have safe places to walk and to drive. And so happy back to school, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to, yes, Commissioner
I just
Durant.
wanted to say thanks for the kudos, but just yesterday at our council meeting, we also approved 1.8, it's almost 1.9 million in more traffic safety improvements for 36 schools. And so we were able to get a grant, a federal grant on that, long time in the coming. They're throughout every ward, so it's not one particular place or another. And we are so pleased to be your partner, and we know how important this is.
Thank you. All right, next, anybody else have any comments? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to member and directors' reports.
Madam Chair, I have a quick report I'd like to run out here. Number one, our memorandum of understanding with the State Public Charter School Authority is in process. I've had discussions with the director there. Our legal counsel has done back and forth the red line MOU version. We had hoped to have that today for your approval, but we're looking to bring that in October, and we have been making good progress, I think, in achieving the goals of information sharing. There's a couple more things to iron out, but I think goodwill is still present, and so I think we're making progress there. Our policy analyst, Nate Kusha, is also working on an updated schools policy to replace Public Facility Policy 8 or edit our PF 8 policy around schools. That's in process. We're starting. We'll put that out probably maybe even next week to the local jurisdictions and then continue that conversation. So we'll be bringing that back for your review soon. I'd like to introduce you to Tyler Smith, our new GIS analyst who joined us on July 1, who has actually interned for us years and years ago. We're really excited that you applied for the job and you're here, Tyler, so thanks for being here. He's helping us to get our new GIS infrastructure underway. We've got a new GIS server. We've upgraded our licensing. And Esri is upgrading the way they deal with GIS licensing anyway, so it's going to lead to what we think is better workflows. I'm sure remember we talking about the third pillar. We've done natural resources. We've been working on our public infrastructure plan. We got that established. And now we're working on our housing and forecasting development and GIS actions and activities, making it transparent, documenting them. And so Tyler's helping with that. And that's also going to help us share data and share workflows with the RTC, who we're partnered with in our shared work program and we're co-located with in their building. We've been doing a big lift with a job for them where they're expanding. We helped them last year with the data for the transportation demand modeling that they do to support their regional transportation plan. Well, now they're taking a step further to go down to what they call the microzone level. So we're helping them build microzones within each of the traffic analysis zones. That's for bicycle and pedestrian modeling. And further, also kind of germane to some degree to the data center conversation, a truck model that would benefit from an understanding of industrial square footage in each traffic analysis zone. So we're helping them with that. Kind of a big lift in a short time, but we're doing our best. And plus our resources at regional planning are back to full strength. We had some folks out on like a medical thing. There was a paternity leave, some vacations, people have to take time, but we're rocking and rolling, and we have 3 interns that have been helping us. So we're ready to launch. In terms of the legislature, there were a few things that we're involved in that came out of the last session. One is that master plans are required to include heat mitigation policies in their master plans. We're just part of that conversation, helping it, linking folks, for instance, to the university. They did a big heat mapping project recently, and just kind of working together with folks at the jurisdictions so that we can help them achieve that. Annual reporting. Typically, this would be the time frame within which we would be putting out our annual reporting update. However, it was SB 48 was passed, and in this last session, it changed the reporting timeframes. So the next time that we're going to receive an annual report submission from local jurisdictions, we have one that we're working on, but the next one will actually come in association to the fiscal year. It'll be October 1st of 2026. So we're working on that annual reporting for this most recent year to bring in our next meeting cycle. But it really is actually a great change for us, because if you remember talking about the public infrastructure plan and capital improvement programs and annual comprehensive financial reports and the asset things and all of that stuff, it all works on the fiscal year. And so actually having the annual reporting match that fiscal year is great. And so we're just kind of giving ourselves one cycle to catch up. We got a lot going on, and we'll be bringing you an update, but then you can expect that henceforth it'll be in the more like the December timeframe of 2026. Our financial audit is on track and going really well, and looks like we should hopefully have that for October, along with the financial statements and our first prospective budget outlook, in keeping with the practice of the agency. We are, it was mentioned, thank you, President Smith, that we're going to be finishing up all the master plan and facility plan reviews versus the 2024 regional plan at our next Regional Planning Commission meeting. We had tried to get that accomplished, but some other items got there and took some time, and so we pushed that off to the end of this month. We're working on our official dwelling unit population estimate for the state demographer. We're helping the Regional Water Management Plan update with the Western Regional Water Commission. So got a lot of things underway in addition to the stuff we talked about today. And I'll end with our next meeting of the RPGB will be in this room on October 9th, 2025. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Next, legal counsel report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 10, board comments and requests. Before I open it up for anybody else, I would personally like to thank previous Chair Andriola for her leadership, and especially for on the project of regional significance with the schools and the charter schools. Your leadership there, I think, has made it to where we are almost done with it. So thank you so much for that. So, and then I will open it up to the other commissioners.
I wanted to add my thanks to Commissioner Andriola for her service. We all have the privilege of serving on a variety of different boards and commissions. This one is a particularly one that's close to my heart, and I appreciated Ms. Andriola's thoughtful leadership.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to congratulate you and Vice Chair, and I am going to, with the loudest voice that I can quietly extend, my apology for being late. My last meeting to chair, and I was 4 minutes, and I tried my best, and I do apologize, but congratulations, and thank you for your kind comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Then any public comment?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. Written correspondence?
No, there's none.
Okay, next, call for adjournment.
Second.
Great. We're adjourned. Thank you.